Hello, how are you all doing? Good evening, good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you're all tuning in from. Welcome along to another one of our IG Live interviews. Please feel free to give your country a shout out. As always, post up questions and we'll do our best to cover those as we go. First time you tuned in, then welcome along. Once you've watched this, then please also check out our other interviews over on IGTV. You'll also be able to find those on YouTube as well now, and also on our Facebook page. My name's Andy. I've worked at Heritage Parts Centre for 13 years. My job involves meeting people, sharing the stories about their vehicles and businesses and passion for their hobby, basically. Here's our guest, and I'll just give him a quick intro. Chatting with me today is a trained motorsport engineer. He's a race car driver. He's a rally co-driver, and he was the recipient of a Spirit of Goodwood Award at the 2019 Festival of Speed. It's Mr. David Vardy.
Hi, it's good to see you.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. I'd say a bit cold.
Yes.
So woolly hats on at the moment, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, feeling good.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you very much for joining me. While I was obviously kind of going through the questions and things we were going to ask you today, I remembered how we first kind of met in person, which was kind of a bit weird, really. We were at Autosport. And we were walking through one of the halls. We were about to go up a flight of stairs, and literally I was with Lee, our photographer, and just heard a guy say golf coilovers, and like all of a sudden my radar went. I was like, I must know something about this chap, and I kind of looked at you and I kind of half recognised you. Waited for you to finish your conversation, and then I was like, "Are you David Vardy by any chance?" You were like, "Yes," and then we had kind of this conversation, and yeah, like after 5 years or something of just chatting on the phone and email and whatever, we end up meeting. Just on the off chance that I heard you say golf coilovers.
It's funny. There's quite a few stories of the same style where it's usually at Autosport, and my voice is very loud. I'm normally talking about something to do with either air-cooled or water-cooled Volkswagens, and people are like, "That's got to be David Vardy." And a tap on the shoulder.
So yeah, that was good. Yeah, just really sort of fluky, really, but oh well, yeah, we ended history. Indeed. So the last 15 years or so, you've been in the motorsport industry. What's your earliest motorsport memory as a kid?
My father used to take me to the touring cars. We lived so close to Donington Park.
Okay.
And I think what really sold me on the motorsport dream was watching the Audis back when Quattro was allowed, then not allowed.
When Beeler was racing, that sort of
yeah. So I can still remember it as if it was yesterday. I was there when Nigel Mansell was in the Ford Mondeo.
Yeah.
I think it was the second lap he crashed, but came back again, another day. But yeah, I used to watch touring cars as a kid, and I still love touring cars to this very day. So that's always going to be a passion, even though I'm rallying. So yeah. I remember
that era for myself. Like, I used to go to Brands Hatch. My dad was quite close to Brands Hatch, and we used to go there, and yeah, we'd watch that again. That sort of era, David Leslie, Thompson, the Accords, and yes, super touring basically. I think Menu, etc. was a real good era.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you left school?
I guess I had a couple of choices really. I was heading down the computers route. We're old enough, well, I'm certainly old enough to remember before the internet existed, and the computer thing was going big, and I went to, apply to go to college to do a computer degree. But I've been working on cars, especially Volkswagen, since I was old enough to hold a spanner. Okay. And it was a choice of going down the academical route in college or following what I loved. And it was always going to be cars, always. So, my dream was always to just follow my dream, to work on cars and work on classic Volkswagens. So, yeah. So,
was the Volkswagen thing from your parents, or?
We have Volkswagen's part of our family, really. It's one of those things where it's definitely in our bloodline. My grandfather was involved, one of the first people when Volkswagens were imported into the UK. My grandfather was part of that fraternity of people back when it was the war. So, I wouldn't say we're responsible for bringing the brand into England, but we've got some really good history books that show technicians coming from Wolfsburg and staying at my grandfather's house. And they used to go out and train the technicians, in the late 40s, early 50s, after the war, really. So Volkswagen has literally been ingrained into us, certainly classics, from day dot.
What was his name?
Jeff Vardy.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's where I started working. So Jeff Vardy Motors in Langley Mill. As soon as I could ride a push bike, got on the push bike, went down to my grandfather's house. He had a huge allotment at the back, rows and rows of camper vans, Beetles, Common Gears, you know, and oh, it was amazing. And he used to give me a bag of spanners, go and take that Beetle engine out up there, go on, get out and do it. And I'd be in a field, not knowing what a spanner was, tapping it. And, you know, by the time I was probably 13, maybe 14, I was looking to try and break the world record of taking a Beetle engine out. It was second to none. So, yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
Good times. So very good times.
So it's in your blood then. You can't avoid it.
Yeah, and then I say the dream was always I wanted to go and then work for Volkswagen brand. That was the dream, because I'd gone from, you know, the history with my grandfather, and the aim was to somehow get to the brand. And then I mean I achieved that. I spent 16 years with Volkswagen and worked at their head office in Milton Keynes. So unfortunately my grandfather died before he got to see that, but you know, I'm sure he was looking down with pride. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, if we go back to kind of motorsport, I guess. So karting's kind of a common route into racing. And is that something you got involved with as a kid, or?
I'm not going to lie, I'm not very good at karting. I enjoy it. I have been I go a lot. I'm a member of a karting group called Dad's Karting. And we do go karting around the country outside of this pandemic. But I never win. I can't think I've ever won a race. But I think there's a lot of routes to get into motorsport from a very young age. But I think it's all about seat time. So it doesn't matter what car you're in, it's having that experience of being able to drive a car. I think go-karting obviously gives you that competitive potential, but you can become a rally co-driver at 14 years old. So, you know, you can be sat in a rally car competing in national events before you can drive. So there's always more than one way, for sure.
Is there a kind of a driver route for rallying which is kind of equivalent to karting, or is it kind of get in a car and drive it?
Yeah, I think rallying is a difficult sport to get into. I think there's a lot of groups that I'm involved in, and it's a very similar chat across all of them around how certainly forest rallying is becoming a dying sport, and hopefully it won't. I think because we don't get the TV coverage that you used to back in the 90s when it was Rally Sunday. It's becoming a very difficult sport to get into, and can be very costly as well. So I think, for me, there's some really good places that you can go to do rally experiences. I did all mine training at Phil Price Rally School in Wales. And you can book, anyone can go and book a day rallying, and it is just mind-blowing. When you get to go and drive a rally car for the first time, doing a track day becomes, forget it.
So I might have got this bit wrong. So you went to uni and you did motorsport engineering, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
And then did you do some lecturing as well, is that right? Yeah,
I left. I worked in Volkswagen garage and an Audi garage as a young kid, did an apprenticeship, but then I got into training. I guess what I'm good at is articulating how components operate in a car. I guess that's what people, certainly our customers, come back to us at the barn. Because they get the training as well. So we tell them what needs replacing, but also explain why it needs replacing, how it works, and the pros and cons and everything else. So I started training when I was 23, and I worked for the Volkswagen apprentice program. And then moved my way all the way up to training manager, and then went to Jaguar Land Rover to be their global training manager as well. So I've been in training pretty much most of my life.
And is that something you kind of enjoy doing, like the educational point of it, kind of teaching people and maybe sort of encouraging youngsters, etc. as well?
Yeah, I think my passion has always been about giving young people an opportunity. I think being able to get an opportunity to do something that you're really passionate about is quite difficult, even today. And I've always had this passion that
There's a few people there saying you trained them.
Yes, yeah, probably. I've had thousands of Volkswagen apprentices for sure, and you know that's what started my love of rallying and motorsport, working in the industry when I was at Volkswagen, you know, back in 2008. But I've always had this passion for giving young people an opportunity. If I could live the rest of my life till the day that I die, investing my time in helping young people, I will die an incredibly happy man. That's for sure. That's
pretty cool. So, if we go, we're going to go sort of all the way around, really. We first came into contact you when you were co-driving with Bob Beals, I think it was.
Yep.
Obviously, it was in the yellow 58 Beetle, and then obviously you later built the Ryler Golf as well. Can you tell us a bit about Bob's car, I suppose, and also the Wales Rally GB, which was kind of a real sort of massive moment for you guys, for both of you, really?
Well, I think I'm really pleased you've asked me that question about that particular era of my rallying career, because actually it's 5 years to the very day that we landed in Deeside with the Beetle on behalf of Volkswagen Heritage that we were running as our title partner. And we obviously spent 4 days in the most incredibly difficult weather. It was Storm Derek, I think it was, back then.
Okay.
Destroyed the service park. And a 1958 Beetle went all the way to the very end and finished on the finish ramp and took the winner's trophy in our class. So 5 years to the day.
I didn't know that. That's,
yeah, without a doubt. It was an incredible weekend, and I think probably cried for many, many, many days after because of how important it was, just from where that car had been from, you know, in all its life. Again, Bob Beals, I met him at Autosport, very similar, talking about cool cars, tap on the shoulder. And then, you know, a few years later, we were in Wales winning Rally GB. It was crazy. So, yeah, I love Beetles. I always have. Absolutely love that car. And I went from co-driving in that car to another historic Beetle, a Denzel Beetle as well. And, yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I absolutely love those cars for sure, definitely. And that was an incredible experience for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Have you got a favourite race circuit or rally stage?
I think I've not had the. I've been lucky enough to travel, you know, far and wide watching racing. But in terms of competing, Rally GB, I don't think anything can compete with it. You know, the stages, all of the stages. Sweet Lamb is when you play it on the game, the WRC games and dirt rallies and things like that. And then you actually go and do it, and you go through the complex, and you go through the water splash and the jumps. I think as a child that's interested in motorsport to then go and do it, just Sweet Lamb at the moment is something that I could probably do blindfolded now. I've done it that many times on the computer and then also in real life. Definitely my favourite at the moment. But I think my favourite rally stage or race circuit is without a doubt Goodwood Forest rally stage. That's been my obsession for life. So, yeah, that's definitely my favourite.
Have you driven the Golf on the Wales course as well?
No, unfortunately, coronavirus has paid, you know, a heavy price in our motorsport life this year. I think we even spoke about it at the start of this year. My plan was to go from obviously what happened at Goodwood last year, and then I was going to compete at Wales Rally GB this year with the Ryler Golf. And unfortunately, it was cancelled. So yeah, it's not quite there. But when the opportunity comes, it will definitely be going there, 100%.
Awesome. If you could, I've got two questions. Loads of questions. But if you're rallying, I guess you have a different race license to if you're on a circuit. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So you do your bars rally license, which you have to do a test for, and then for race license, you have an ARDS race license to do circuit racing, because they are very different disciplines. And the way I drive is not it's not very good for driving on the road. So then I've done my ARDS license, And when you do the the practice sessions with trained drivers, they're like, you are turning way too quickly in. You do not use your handbrake, and that's an apex. So, yeah, two very different skill sets, but both very accessible as well. I mean, yeah, they're two different licenses.
Is rallying or track racing one kind of considerably cheaper or more expensive than the other? Or are they both kind of...
I think rallying it depends what type of circuit racing you do. I think rallying is possibly slightly cheaper because you get to share with another person as a co-driver, so you can share the costs attached. But
yeah,
we all in our team, myself, George and Matt, did our ARDS license this year to take part in the Enduro Car Championship. So championships like that, where you're doing endurance racing and there's multiple drivers, then yeah, you can share the costs across them. So I think motorsport is expensive, but if you can get a good group of people to share it with, then you can share the costs and enjoy, the experience together.
Yeah. If you could have an all-expenses season racing in a top flight series like F1 or DTM or World Rally, where would you go? What would you do?
I think our ambitions are very high. I would very much like to progress in the rally sport into much more powerful cars. I want to see us compete in R2s. Then I want to see us in an R5 Polo, WRC.
Yeah.
I want to go up and up and up. But the price is significant when you get up to the top level motorsport. So I guess if I had a dream, I would very much like to be sat as a co-driver with George driving in a Polo R5 GTI on a WRC stage. Compressor. Switched everything off other than the compressor. But yeah, I think World Rally Championship is something I'd love to be part of as a co-driver. I'm way too old and probably way too slow to drive it, but I'd love to sit with my business partner and best friend George, in a Polo for the year. So one that all expenses paid, would be at Monte Carlo in January, ready to go, taking on the big boys.
Cool. I'll give you a shout if I win the lottery. So yeah, let's go back to, I guess, Goodwood 2019. We were there with our split truck, which kind of happened to win best in class, which was pretty cool. And fantastic. Then, you and George were on the rally stage with the Ryder Golf. And myself and Leah got there. You said, I'll park kind of in a secret space, and you'd come up and meet us. And we came in kind of VIP style in a golf cart, which was, amazing. But, run us through the week. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was an incredible weekend. We didn't go. We had no expectations. We'd finally got the Railer Golf to homologated to 1981. So the previous year we'd ran a Corrado engine, 2-litre 8-valve injection, all this sort of stuff. It wasn't really the Railer Golf that we should have took. So last year we took it with a proper engine. We did everything right, and we just wanted to go compete and try and set some good times. We came with you guys. You had the truck on the show and shine section, which won, which was fantastic. And then obviously the Volkswagen Motorsport team were there with the Rallycross car and the IDR all at the same time. So there's quite a bit of a Volkswagen theme going across all the different areas, which is quite cool. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought we would have walked away from Goodwood, all of us collectively, taking all of the awards. It was a Volkswagen whitewash of Goodwood. I could not believe it. It started with us on the Thursday doing some runs on the Forest stage, putting some times in, and we already knew we were very, very quick. The times, even on recce, which is just the practice runs, untimed, were way quicker than we were doing last year. So we had massive confidence. The first day, which was the Friday in the morning, we were on the shootout, so this is the time run, and midway through the stage, the railer came round a 90 right, and hit a bank slightly, popped the drive shaft out, moved one way to the track, the other way to the track, flat, and then head first straight to the tree. And that was it. Friday morning, Goodwood over. So George was gutted. George Clark was driving. Complete unavoidable error. Something that we couldn't have foreseen. And we thought that was it. Our weekend was over. But we've got a really good team of people that work with us in the motorsport team. They finally got the car out of the tree because it was embedded. Brought it back into the paddock, and everybody, including the competitors next to us, next to them, across the way, was like, no way are you giving up. You are staying here and you are racing. And it was a huge collective effort. Rebuilt the car, bandaged up the bonnet. This was the bonnet, even with some unicorn duct tape where we hit the tree. And we went back out that day. That evening, we were back out. We did a run the next day in the morning where the radiator exploded. So we had a second radiator, that blew up. Spoke to you guys over at Heritage. We need a radiator. And we had radiators coming back and forth.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Out for another run, and the drive shaft blew off again, but this time on the start line, and the car just rolled to a finish. This was on the Saturday. So
yeah,
the car was back and forth, and we decided at that point, you know what, we should just call it. But we woke up on the Sunday morning. I sent a WhatsApp.
I think we've lost you sound-wise, Dave. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I lost the sound. Let's go for a walk. Do you want to go for a walk round? Ooh. Hopefully we'll get Dave back in a second, guys. Let's see if I can invite him back along. If anyone's got any questions for Dave, hopefully he will come back to join us in a second. So yeah, pop your questions up. We'll throw those at him. We've got a little bit of time. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Hopefully you can hear me as well. Okay. You can hear me. That's a good start. Aha. Hey.
Sorry, it just all went silent then. I don't know what happened. The screen went off. Apologies.
No, that's all right. These things happen.
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, I think Sunday morning you dropped a drive shaft on the start line.
Yeah, yeah. It was just a catalogue of things that happened, but then we managed to get the car back out. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was told by one of the marshals to go and speak to the clerk of the course. And I thought I was in trouble because we'd crashed that many times. And
they want some money for a new tree.
Yeah. And they informed us that I'd won driver of the event and the coveted Spirit of Goodwood Award, and I needed to go and line up behind the IDR and Petty Solberg in the rallycross car to go down to Goodwood House after the shootout. And yeah, I burst into tears, and everybody in the Rally HQ burst into tears. Everybody. It was very emotional.
So did you manage to drive the car down to it?
Yeah, so we'd obviously repaired the car after all the damage and had it all stickered up. And I managed to get behind the IDR. Petter Solberg was in the ahead of it, in the Polo rallycross car. We all went down the hill in convoy. Three complete different Volkswagens. Petter Solberg won driver of the event on the hill climb. We won the driver event on the forest stage, and the IDR obviously broke the record for the fastest time on the hill climb as well. So, and I thought I was going to get a little trophy or something, but then I was presented with this.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
And I think there's very, very, very rare trophy to say that we've won that Spirit of Goodwood Award. Is
it yours, or do you have to give it back next year?
It's ours. I'm going to be very careful what I say, because none of this is me. You know, I will drive that car as it should until I can no longer drive. But without the team, without George, as a collective group, we would not have won that award collectively.
Yeah.
You know, but it's our award, but it's a very big testament to teamwork can get you to the very top of, you know, whatever your dreams are.
Yeah, definitely. It was it was a special few days that in Goodwood.
Well, I'd said at the time, when we got our awards, I went over to speak to Petter Solberg, because he's a huge, I'm a huge fan of his anyway. And my very first memory of Goodwood, way before I got into motorsport, I was with my father again. We saw Petter Solberg walking across the grass when he was there, when he was racing for Subaru World Rally.
Okay.
And he was with a little kid, which turns out to be none other than Oliver Solberg now, obviously. And he was going to buy him a Subaru lanyard. And I ran across the grass to him with my dad to get his autograph. And I said to him at the time, how do you do this? How can I, this event is amazing. How on earth can I be where you are? What can I do? And he turned around to me and he said, just never give up. You know, follow your dreams. And then literally 15 years later, I was stood with him, winning the only award that I ever wanted to win in motorsport. And he won the other one. We're both stood holding the same trophy. And it just was, I could not write that.
Can I have the film rights? It sounds a little bit like Cool Runnings.
Yeah. Different, rather than a Jamaican bobsled team, a bunch of misfits get into Goodwood.
I'm not kissing your lucky egg. So you kind of mentioned Petter Solberg. Have you got a specific kind of motorsport hero or idol?
Colin McRae was, you know, probably the reason why I ever wanted to be in rallying. I was very lucky enough to meet him a few times before his early passing. And I just loved his style, loved the way he drives. And, you know, people have got really sit on the fence. I've got loads of rallying heroes, and I've been very fortunate to meet them all. Carlos Sainz, I've been very lucky to sit with him in the Polo WRC as a co-driver. And, you know, these top motorsport stars like that, you know, I would never dream of being as good as them, but I would always envy how they've reached that very top level. But Colin McRae is definitely the one who, you know, I will always say is my hero.
Cool. Someone's commented up. Did Petter Solberg remember you?
Unfortunately not. I think that Petter Solberg is one of the nicest guys that you could meet. You meet a lot of people at Goodwood, certainly top level motorsport people. and you can have real good conversation with some of them. Others, if they don't recognise you, you're not part of their conversation, which is a bit frustrating. But Petter Solberg chatted with us for felt like a lifetime, and I told him the story, and he was like, "Oh, that's so good, and he definitely couldn't remember me back in the day. But then I've got long hair now and a big beard, and it's grey as well. So back then I had short hair and no beard, so probably not."
Do you think there's kind of a relationship between competitors and sort of exhibitors at Goodwood, which kind of you don't get to experience as just a general punter? So is there a bit more of a camaraderie between people, which means you can go and just talk to someone who's an A-lister or whatever without that kind of barrier as much?
Yeah, it's weird because, you know, I'm just Dave from Nottingham, who just likes to chase the dreams. But I've sat in a pub with Keanu Reeves having a beer, talking about how awesome the Matrix films were, and you just think that's not real. That doesn't exist.
Can you tell me that story in a minute, please?
And Goodwood opens those kind of weird things to you. And I've got some really good friends in the world that people will remember their names and recognise their names. And I'm probably the most famous person you've never heard of. But by all means, myself and, you know, George Clark will be etched in history for life for hitting trees and never quitting. But yeah, I think there is, to answer that question, I've been to Goodwood with a stand. I've had quite big stands. I ran the Volkswagen stand in 2013 when we had the Polo WRC and the I forget the car. We had I forget what it was, but yeah. But when you're on a stand, it's a very different experience. And as a competitor, I've stood there behind the hay bale with an autograph book as a younger person, wanting to try and get their autographs. Whereas now I'm stood with them having a cup of tea, which is quite surreal. And I think people, when they're in there, you know, you kind of all at that level, and it's quite nice to be accepted if you're not a known face. You know, you can talk to these people and they're okay. So.
What was the crack with Keanu Reeves? How do you end up in a pub?
Well, we always go. I take a good friend of mine, Matt Staines, who comes to Goodwood with us every year, and we always go for the Goodwood beer first thing Wednesday night. It's or a Thursday night, depending on when we get there. It's something that we do every time. So we go to the Goodwood Hotel and sit and have a beer and talk about what amazing things we're going to do this time. And then Keanu Reeves was sat at the table next to us, and I'm like, "That's Keanu Reeves," and he's like, "No," and I'm like, "It is." And yeah, I mean, we kind of just shuffled across till we got close. It was like, "Are you Keanu Reeves?" And he's like, yeah. And he just started talking to us. It was like, what? And then, yeah, that was it. It was, okay, selfies, please. I've got to document this. No one is ever going to believe us. And we talked to him about his bikes. That's why he was there. And we talked to him about, you know, kind of his films, and just very real kind of brief conversation, and just really cool kind of experience. And then he was there all weekend after. My wife came on the Friday, and when she knew Keanu Reeves was there, I saw her for probably 5 minutes for the entire event, because she was with Keanu Reeves for the rest of the event. She's like, this is the only chance I'm going to get on this. And there's just hundreds of pictures of her and Keanu, and just the one of me with the pub with us. But Goodwood does that sort of thing. It's really surreal, very surreal.
That's crazy. We touched on kind of lottery wins earlier about kind of what you do. So I'll sort of skip over that one to another hypothetical. I really like hypothetical questions. Would you rather have a dream garage of cars but you're not allowed to drive them, or a couple of old bangers but all the money and the resources to race them?
I love that question because, you know, the Retro Barne is a dream garage for me. But when it comes to racing, I don't care what we're in. It's always about racing. I am incredibly competitive, and George is incredibly competitive as well. So combined, we're like two hammers hitting each other head on, that we've just got to beat each other at anything. So if we had Robin Reliance or Porsche Le Mans cars, it does not matter. You know, a race is a race, and we've got to win.
And yeah, talking of Retro Barne, let's hear a bit about what you're doing. When you're not dodging trees in forest stages, and maybe give us a bit of a wander around if your lead will stretch that far. Yeah. So for sure, we wanted to create I left the training industry in 2018. I walked away from suit and ties and short hair and shaved beards to follow a passion. I wanted to compete in motorsport at the highest level, and I wanted to be able to work on classic cars and put my passion into doing them, bringing them back to life as best as they could be. So we created the Retro Barne, which is, I don't know if I can bring you with me here. So we do everything from old camper vans all the way through caddies, Porsches under there, and Mark 1 Golfs. We've got a Mark 1 Sirocco under that cover, all the way through to another Mark 1 Golf, kind of like them, I think. To Siroccos, and then we've got another fantastic Porsche just here. So, yeah, we've got a few cars in at the moment, very busy, but everything's in for the night before we open back up again tomorrow. But I can't believe how well this business has kind of blown up this year. I think it's a new business, even though I've got 25 years experience with Volkswagens. Retro Barne's only been around for a year. But I think the fact that we've got a partnership with Heritage Parts, we also have from a modern vehicle work with Volkswagen brand. We're able to work on cars with premium ability and premium parts, and spend our time caring for these cars and putting them back onto the road how they should be. And that's what the Retro Barne's all about: restoring cars and customizing cars correctly. And so you've got a few guys working there, or just yourself? Or?
It's myself and George Clark who run the business, but he lives in Dubai, so he flies back it when he can. Sorry?
Bit of a commute, that one?
Little bit of a commute, yeah. He gets stuck in traffic regularly in the morning. Although he did fly back this year to do a rally and then got trapped in the UK. So that was quite funny. Okay. Typically red hot summer. I would have liked him to be trapped in the UK when it was raining and snowing. But yeah, so it was myself and George sat in his apartment a few years back. We'd come back off an event and said, you know what, we want to follow our dreams and really do everything we can. And we came up with this harebrained scheme to open up this restoration centre. And then lo and behold, less than a year later, I'd handed my notice in, chucked my suit in the bin, and had this building full of classic Volkswagens. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. But we've got Ryan. I don't know if he's still here. He was cleaning up oil on the floor. But yeah, just myself and Ryan daily working on the cars. But one of the great things about running a classic Volkswagen business, I'm connected with all the groups as much as I can. Classic Volkswagen Owners Club is the one that I'm more active on. Really great bunch of people and really great community spirit. And you get to find out that there's some really great companies out there. So I like to partner with people that are specialists. Yeah. And if you have, we're not in competition with anyone else. I love watching Dan Chambers on his Instagram channel and on the YouTube and stuff like that, and seeing what people do. And I think if there's a real niche to people's work, I'd rather work with them than work against them. So we work with multiple companies across the country. I've got 2 cars at the moment with a guy called Ben Aldridge, VWX Conversions on the South Coast. Okay. And yeah, we do as much as we can here, and we try and connect with as many enthusiasts as possible. And I'd love to meet everyone. Hopefully one day.
Indeed, yeah. Start doing this, you meet quite a few people, and you don't have to go anywhere.
Well, I just need to go to Autosport and talk about coilovers and Mark 1 Golf.
You'll meet everyone. Awesome. Yeah. Massive thank you very much for joining us and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, apologies that it went south for some reason. I'm not sure what happened there, but you know, I've got parts from Volkswagen Heritage from the very earliest thing I can remember, and I will continue to do that forever. You know, I didn't even show you that. There's another big box just here full of bits that we ordered for the Caddy, and it's a constant stream. And I love it. You know, there's a great relationship that we've got, and I think we've got loads more memories to make in the future, and I can't wait for that.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much. So for people looking to follow you, you're on at VRD Motorsport, but you've got your Instagram for Retro Barne as well. What's that? Yeah,
so we've got at Retro Barne, and it's Barne with an E at the end. And there's a play on words there because George Clark, who's my business partner's surname, has got an E at the end. And nobody ever writes that, so we have to say it's George Clark with an E. So that's where with an E came from. So we made Barne with an E. But yeah, Retro Barne with an E on Instagram for the the Volkswagen love, and yeah, VRD Motorsport for as soon as we start to race again, more railer golf fun and rallying and winning trophies, hopefully.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much. If there's anyone out there who'd be interested in chatting with myself or Steph or anyone else in the team, really, then drop us a DM and we can have a chat about getting you on, a bit like we have with Dave today. Massive thanks to everyone for watching. We're going to be saving this chat to our stories, IGTV. We'll get it onto Facebook. We've now got all our interviews going up onto YouTube as well. So if people want to go back and listen to them, they're there for people to catch up on. There's some really cool chats we've had. So yeah, thank you very much. Look after yourselves, everyone. Stay safe. And until the next time, take it easy, Dave. Cheers, man.